I'm 109 years old, and I need to tell you something that doctors can't quite explain. My name is William. I've buried 3 wives, watched empires rise and fall, and I've done something that shouldn't be possible at my age. I've kept my mind sharp, completely sharp. No dementia, no decline, no fade. And before you think this is about genetics or luck, I need to stop you right there, because I'm here to tell you something that nobody wants to hear. Your brain isn't failing because of your age. It's failing because of what you've stopped doing. You see, I've watched my friends disappear into themselves, watched their eyes go blank, watched them forget the names of their grandchildren. I've sat in nursing homes where people my age are just gone, still breathing, still moving, but the person inside has packed up and left. And every single time, I've thought about the choices they made when they still had time, the things they stopped doing, the risks they stopped taking, the questions they stopped asking. I'm not here to give you some miracle cure or some fancy supplement I've been hiding. I'm not going to tell you it's a special diet or a magic pill, because that's all nonsense. What I'm about to tell you is harder than that. It requires effort. It requires you to be uncomfortable. It requires you to keep your mind in the game even when everything in you wants to quit. Let me take you back. I was 45 years old when I made the first mistake. I had built a successful law practice, made good money, had respect in my community, and I thought I had figured it out. I thought I could coast. That's the lie that kills people's minds. The moment you think you've figured it out is the moment your brain starts to shut down. See, when you stop learning, when you stop challenging yourself, your brain doesn't just stay the same. It atrophies. It's like a muscle. You don't use it. It withers. I spent my 40s, 50s, even my 60s doing the same thing over and over. Getting up, going to the office, doing cases I'd done 1,000 times before, coming home, watching television, going to bed. Repeat. The same patterns, the same routines, the same thoughts running through my head. My second wife, Margaret, she used to get frustrated with me. She'd say, "William, when's the last time you did something new? When's the last time you learned something that scared you?" And I'd brush her off. I was busy. I was tired. I didn't have time for hobbies. But what I was really doing was slowly turning my brain into a hard drive full of the same files playing on a loop. Then at 67, something shifted. Margaret died. Cancer. 6 months from diagnosis to gone. And when she was in hospice, she said something to me that I think about every single day. She said, "William, you've built a life, but you never really lived it. And the saddest part is you still have time." She was right. I had time, and I was wasting it by standing still. The day after her funeral, I did something I hadn't done in decades. I enrolled in a university class, not online, not something easy, a real class, sitting in a room with young people half my age, taking exams, writing papers. I was 67 years old and terrified. My hands shook the first day. But you know what happened? Something in my brain woke up. It was like someone had flipped a switch. I wasn't just thinking about the cases I'd worked on or the routines I'd built. I was engaging with new ideas, being challenged, making mistakes, and having to figure them out. That first semester was about philosophy, medieval philosophy actually, Aristotle, Aquinas, Bonaventure, ideas I'd never studied before, and my brain, which had been slowly deteriorating, started to come alive. This is the thing nobody tells you. Your brain doesn't need rest. It needs friction. It needs to be pushed. It needs to face problems it hasn't solved before. That's when it grows. That's when it stays sharp. After that first class, I couldn't stop. I took literature, Spanish language, physics, advanced mathematics. I wasn't trying to build a degree. I was feeding my mind. And the remarkable thing happened, not just in those classrooms, but everywhere. I started remembering things better. I started seeing connections I'd never seen before. People would tell me about their problems, and I could draw from all these different domains of knowledge I'd picked up. My mind wasn't in decline anymore. It was expanding, but here's what I also realized. Learning isn't just about formal education. It's about staying curious about everything. When I was in my 70s, I became obsessed with photography. Not because I needed another hobby, but because it forced my brain to see in completely new ways. How does light work? How do you compose an image? How do you understand the technical side of a camera? I was terrible at first, absolutely terrible. But I kept going because being bad at something is one of the best things for your brain. When you're bad at something, your brain has to work harder. Then I got into gardening. Sounds simple, right? But gardening is actually a complex interplay of science, timing, patience, and problem solving. Why did this plant die? What's the soil pH? When do I prune? What's the weather forecast telling me? Every day was a new puzzle to solve. My 80s were full of gardening, and my brain stayed sharp because I was constantly asking questions and adjusting my approach. In my 90s, I started writing, not for publication, just journals, reflections, letters to people I cared about. Writing forces you to organize your thoughts, to find the right words, to make connections between ideas you might not have noticed before. I wrote about my life, my mistakes, the lessons I'd learned, and in writing about those things, I understood them more deeply. My 90s weren't a time of decline. They were a time of deepening wisdom because I was actively engaging with my past and my present. But it's not just the learning. There's something else that's equally important, and I think this is what most people get wrong. You have to stay connected to people, to ideas, to the world. I see people retire and they withdraw. They think they've earned the right to just sit and watch life happen. And I understand that. But the moment you stop engaging with other people, your mind starts to fade. You need conversation, real conversation. Not small talk about the weather, real dialogue about ideas, about meaning, about what you're thinking and feeling. When I was 100 years old, I joined a discussion group. Once a week, a bunch of us would get together and we'd talk about philosophy, current events, books we were reading. I was often the oldest person in the room, and I was surrounded by people in their 60s and 70s who were still thinking deeply. And you know what? Those conversations kept me sharp in ways that nothing else could. Because when you have to explain your ideas to someone else, when you have to defend them or reconsider them, your brain has to be engaged. I also started traveling again, not sitting on beaches. Traveling that required me to navigate new places, meet new people, solve problems I hadn't encountered before. I went to Japan when I was 103. Didn't speak the language, didn't know where I was going half the time. And it was terrifying and exhilarating and exactly what my brain needed. My mind was firing on all cylinders trying to figure out how to order food, how to read signs, how to get from point A to point B. That kind of cognitive challenge is what keeps you sharp. But let me tell you something else, something that people don't like to hear. You have to take care of your body too. Your brain lives in your body. If you ignore your body, your brain suffers. I walk every single day, 4 miles, sometimes 5. Not because I'm trying to be healthy, well, I am, but more importantly, because exercise increases blood flow to the brain. It literally feeds your brain. You can't exercise your mind if you're not moving your body. I also sleep 8 hours a night. People in their 40s and 50s are running on 5 hours and wondering why they can't think clearly. Sleep is when your brain processes everything. It's when it consolidates memories. When you're sleep deprived, you're actually killing your brain. And I watch what I eat. Not strictly, but I'm aware I eat a lot of fish, nuts, vegetables, the Mediterranean diet mostly. Not because some celebrity told me to, but because I understand that my brain needs fuel, proper fuel. When you're eating processed garbage, your brain is trying to function on garbage. It's like expecting a Ferrari to run on cheap gas. Here's the thing that really troubles me when I look at people in their 40s and 50s. You're at the peak of your cognitive abilities right now. Your brain is still young, still plastic, still capable of learning at a rate that 100-year-olds like me can only dream of, and yet I watch you waste it. You're doing the same job day after day, following the same routines, thinking the same thoughts. You're not challenging yourselves. You're not learning things that scare you. You're not traveling to places that are going to disorient you and force you to grow. You're playing it safe, and playing it safe is killing your brain, even though you don't realize it yet. I had 3 strokes. Did you know that? In my 80s and 90s, full strokes. But you know what? They didn't take my mind. My doctor said it should have. The damage should have been significant, but because my brain had been constantly challenged, because I'd built up cognitive reserve through decades of learning and engagement, I recovered from each one. My brain had more connections than it needed. When one pathway got damaged, the signal could reroute. That cognitive reserve isn't built by doing crossword puzzles or brain games. It's built by genuinely learning new things, by facing challenges that require you to think in new ways. I'm also very deliberate about my social connections. At 109, I have fewer people around me, obviously. Many of my friends have passed, but I have a few people I see regularly, and I invest in those relationships. I call people. I write letters. I have conversations. Loneliness is absolutely devastating to your cognitive function. Your brain is a social organ. It evolved to interact with other brains. When you isolate yourself, when you stop having meaningful relationships, your mind deteriorates. I don't care how many books you read or how many classes you take. If you're isolated, your brain will fade. One more thing, and I think this is the most important thing. You have to have something you care about, something that gets you out of bed in the morning, something bigger than yourself. For some people, it's their work. For others, it's a cause. For me, it's been different things at different times. When I was younger, it was my practice. Then it was helping young people get into law school. Then it was writing, then photography, then my garden. But there's always been something that makes me feel like my life matters, that I'm contributing, that my brain is being used for something meaningful. People ask me all the time, William, aren't you tired? Don't you want to just rest? And the truth is, yes, I'm tired sometimes. My body aches. I get fatigued, but my mind isn't tired. It's engaged. It's alive because I've spent my entire life feeding it, challenging it, using it for things that matter. And that's the difference between a 109-year-old with a sharp mind and a 109-year-old who's fading. It's not luck. It's not genetic, it's choice. It's deliberate, consistent, sometimes uncomfortable choice to keep learning, keep growing, keep engaging. I know you probably think you have time. You're in your 40s or 50s. You think you have decades ahead of you to start living deliberately, to start learning, to start challenging yourself, and maybe you do. But I've watched people die unexpectedly. I've watched people's minds deteriorate faster than anyone expected. Time is not something you can bank. You don't get to make deposits and spend them later. You only have right now, this moment. So here's what I want you to do. Don't wait until you're 70 or 80 or 100 to start taking care of your mind. Start now. Learn something that scares you. Take a class in something you've never studied. Travel somewhere you don't know how to navigate. Have a conversation with someone who thinks differently than you do. Start a project that you have no idea how to finish. Move your body every single day. Sleep 8 hours. Eat well. Invest in your relationships. Find something that matters to you and pour yourself into it. Because your mind is the most precious thing you have. And unlike your house or your car or your bank account, you can't replace it. You can only use it or lose it. And right now, at your age, you still have time to choose. I'm 109 years old. And I'm sharper now than I was at 60 because I decided a long time ago that I wasn't going to coast, that I wasn't going to accept the narrative that getting older means getting slower, dumber, fader. I rejected that completely. And every single day I wake up and I do something that challenges me, something that stretches my mind, something that reminds me that I'm still alive, still growing, still becoming. You can do the same thing. You just have to start now. Not someday, not when you retire, not when you finally have time. Now. Because the time you have right now is the only time you're guaranteed. Make it count. Use your mind while you still have it. Challenge it, feed it, love it, because your future self will thank you for it. That's a promise. If this resonates with you, I'd love for you to share it, not for me. But for someone you know who's given up on their brain, someone who's told themselves they're too old to learn, someone who's playing it safe. Tell them William at 109 is still learning, still growing, still becoming, and so can they. Subscribe if you want to hear more from someone who's refused to accept the limitations that age is supposed to bring. Hit that like button, leave a comment, and tell me one thing you're going to learn this week that challenges you, and then go do it. Because your brain is waiting, and it's hungry.